Welcome to the Crimson Tide Connection, your home for Crimson Tide sports. And I'm joined today by the head coach of the Alabama baseball team, Mitch Gaspard. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Coach, you're coming off a victory over a top 10 team in Arkansas this past Saturday. You took game 3 in that series 5-0. Just kind of talk about that and how big was it to end the series on a winning note and come away with a victory?
Well, I thought it was big in a lot of ways. You know, one, for our team, we still have a lot of youth, and I think it was the first big win for us as far as the top 10 opponent goes. So I think that goes a long way just with confidence for our guys as we move into the really tough part of the schedule here for the next month.
Coach, you know, we were talking about this earlier. I actually had a friend of mine that covered Spencer in high school, and he said, man, what's going on with Spencer Turnbull? 29 2/3 scoreless innings as we were talking. That's pretty impressive, especially in the SEC. What have you seen from him where he's kind of maybe turned that switch on from last year to where he is right now?
I think it's just, first just maturity. I think experience plays into that as well. But his command's been tremendous. I mean, with all 3 pitches, and his fastball's been sitting anywhere from 91 to 95 miles an hour. And obviously, anytime you get in that range, you're going to have the hitters are going to have difficulty. But I think just his mound presence, his maturity, those things, and obviously his confidence is sky high right now.
Coach, another young guy that's been doing pretty well for you is Georgie Salem. He's had 10 multi-hit games. He's second on the team in batting average. Just talk about him, and what have you seen from him that you like so far?
Well, George has obviously played every day in center field for us, been our leadoff hitter. He's been that guy to kind of get us started at times, and really a lot of the same. I think it took, just like a lot of these young players, he needed to get some at-bats under his belt, but he's been really consistent, throughout the year, and he's had some really good weekends and some really good at-bats, throughout the season. And but I think he's another guy that's maturing. The game is slowing down for him, and he's getting better in all phases, and particularly on the offensive end.
Coach, another guy that's been playing well, you've got several guys that's been playing well, but this guy is not a young guy, Brett Booth, senior. He is leading the team with batting average. He's throwing guys out from behind the plate, and he's just not a leader on the field. He's kind of one off the field there in the dugout too, isn't he?
Well, as I've said before, Brett's probably been our MVP, 30 games in or so, and obviously he's played tremendous behind the plate. As you said, he's throwing out, runners, and he's done a nice job for us offensively.
Booth, a great cut. Great contact, and this one is gone.
He's been really good in that dugout, and really good with his young pitching staff, and he's really provided that leadership that you need. Again, he's one of those experienced guys that brings a lot to the table. Particularly when we get into these SEC series, it just gives a lot of information to those guys to help prepare them for each game.
Who's talking about the SEC, you're tied for second place in the West with Arkansas at 8-4 in the division and third overall in the SEC. Just kind of talk about this point in the season. How important is it to be right there? Because the top 4 teams get buys in the SEC tournament, and I'm sure you'd like to be one of those teams.
Sure, and I think the key for us, and what we've done a good job, is just taking it the old cliche, one game at a time. And that's the thing. The SEC is a 30-game schedule, and you have to do a good job whether you have success or failure in the game previous to put it behind you and move on to the next game. And this group has done a good job of that. And obviously, getting off to the 7-2 start with 2 of those being on the road was really big for us. And then even a lot of times just to avoid a sweep, like we did on Saturday, to play really well in that last game, the getaway day, and to get that win can take you, and you can ride that momentum into the next weekend. So this group's done a good job of that. What I like is we're getting better, as we're moving through the season, and I felt like this team would do that. And that's the key for us, because every weekend is difficult. I mean, it's right. You're playing, we're playing top 20 teams now for the next 3 weeks, and you got to play good baseball, and you got to play consistent. So this group's done a good job of that. Their preparation's been good, and I think they've got a good mentality to them as well.
Coach, as you say, this team is getting better. They've been pretty good on the road, 5-1 in the SEC on the road. You have to be pretty pleased about that. But this weekend, you're going to need some of that success as you travel to Oxford to take on a top 20 team in Ole Miss.
Well, and Mike Bianco and Ole Miss has got a great tradition there. It's one of the most difficult places to play. They have a great fan base, and so our guys are going to have to stay within themselves, but really do a lot of the same things we've been doing throughout the year. We need to get good starting pitching throughout the 3-game series, and then offensively, we need to be good. I mean, we're going to see on Friday night Bobby Wall is one of the elite pitchers in the league, and they have a really good rotation, But it comes down to being good in all phases, just like it does every weekend, and kind of put all the other things behind you and just play the game for 9 innings and play it hard.
Coach, talking about the pitching rotation, you and I were talking a little bit earlier about your rotation. What do you feel like it's going to be your rotation maybe heading into that series against Ole Miss?
We're going to, Charlie Sullivan will remain as our Friday night starter. We are going to make a change on Saturday, and we're going to move Justin Camplain into the Saturday starter and really just flip-flop Justin and John Keller will move into the bullpen, and obviously Spencer will stay on Sunday. And we feel like the Saturday move is really just more from a team standpoint. It's an opportunity for Justin to come in, but also trying to get John going as well in the bullpen. He did a good job last year when we made a move similar to this and really kind of got him going in the back end of the game. And so it's as much as anything, just we feel like we've got a guy in the bullpen we haven't pitched a whole lot, who's fresh and who's been really good in his opportunities, so we want to give him a chance as well on Saturday.
Well, Coach, I know Oxford isn't too far from Tuscaloosa, so I know there's a lot of Alabama fans in Mississippi, so I'm sure you'd be glad to have those come out there to Oxford and help cheer you on, right?
We will. And one quick thing, we have obviously Charlie Sullivan on Friday night, who's from Oxford, Mississippi, and then Spencer is from right down the road from Oxford, so it's going to be a nice homecoming for those two kids as well.
I'm sure they'd love to come away from that series with a victory, right?
Yeah, as we all would.
Well, come out and cheer on the Tide if you're around Oxford, Mississippi this weekend, but if not, come back to RollTide.com and we'll have a complete wrap-up of each game after the game is completed. For head coach Mitch Gaspard, I'm Chris Fringland, and that's it for this edition of the Crimson Tide Connection.